You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast hosted by Matt Franks and Zach Bechtold. We hope you enjoy this week's show, and you can find out more about us by going online at beardedtheologians.com, where you can pick up a few t-shirts, listen to a few old episodes, and find ways that you can connect with us. Thank you for listening. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold.
So this week on the podcast, we are jumping into the lectionary as we were kind of having some fun trying to figure out what to talk about this week. And the gospel text, John 10:22 through 30, really stuck out at us. And we think this will be a fun text to talk about. And so, Zach, read the text.
Yeah, so it's from John's Gospel, chapter 10, verses 22 through 30. The time came for the festival of dedication in Jerusalem. It was winter, and Jesus was in the temple. Walking in the covered porch named for Solomon, the Jewish opposition circled around him and asked, "How long will you test our patience? If you are the Christ, tell us plainly." Jesus answered, "I have told you, but you don't believe. The works I do in the Father's name testify about me, but you don't believe because you don't belong to my sheep. My sheep listen to my voice. I know them and they follow me. I give them eternal life. They will never die, and no one will snatch them from my hand. My Father has given them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them from my Father's hand. I and the Father are one." So, Matt, when you hear that reading out of John's Gospel, it's definitely a little bit of a different one. We don't tell this story about Jesus very often. What catches your attention?
I think the question that the opposition ask, or the religious leaders, ask is, how long will you test our patience? I find that a little bit interesting. Not just because they're obviously upset. They're obviously upset that Jesus is gaining some attention that they're not getting. Like, there's definitely some things there, but I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things where, knowing that this is known as the Good Shepherd Sunday, and then Jesus kind of lays down, like, this is what I do. Like, this is who I am.
Here's what this means,
like,
right? Yeah.
These are my people. Like, you're obviously not hanging out with me because you don't fully understand. I think to preach this would be interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I think the question you could ask internally is, who are you? Like, which one of you resonates with this story? Are you on the opposition? Are you questioning the patient? Like, are you questioning Christ? Are you questioning the call that Jesus has for us to love our neighbor? Or are you in the fold? And then what does it take? He does lay what it takes to kind of live into the fold is to listen to my voice. Like, I think that's key. This is, like you said, this is not one that we talk about all that often, if at all, unless you're reading a John's book, or like a book on John or something like that. But I don't know. It's just one, like, when I was looking at it, it just, like, this is interesting, and it would be fun to talk about this with Zach. Like, that's literally what was going through my head.
Well, and that's so John's Gospel, obviously, like, we talk about it a lot. Everybody talks about it. It's way different. It portrays Jesus in a different way, or differently than Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And when I read this, I think of the interactions Jesus has with the religious elite in the other three gospels. And, he'll tell a parable, he'll kind of call them out in that way. They'll ask him some questions, and he'll recite the law to them, right? Or ask them a question for them to answer, right? Like, you tell me what the law says about this. And then the religious elite, they go on and huddle up and plot to discredit or to arrest or to kill Jesus, right? We never really see them act upon that until the garden. And that's where I think John's Gospel is different here. We see that interaction. They quite literally circle him and paint him into a corner and say, "Tell us who you are. If you're the Christ, just tell us plainly. Quit talking in riddles, quit telling us parables, quit doing all of these things. Just say it. Say it out loud," right? And the story goes on in verse 31 and on that the Jewish opposition picks up stones and calls to stone Jesus, right? And Jesus like, wait, wait, wait. Here's what we're doing here, right? You asked me the question, I answered it. And this section ends with Jesus escaping. They wanted to arrest him, but Jesus escapes from them. John's gospel paints an exciting picture of this encounter, but we don't see that in the other gospels. We see it very compartmentalized and having conversations here and there and before and after the meeting and the religious elite getting flustered in a way, but never really acting on it like this. And I find this interesting that it comes up in the lectionary post Easter. Um, Feels a little strange to me because we're living into the resurrection of Easter and kind of in that season. But for this to kind of linger into this season of here's where Jesus was, here's what Jesus came up against, here's the conversations he had, and people just wanted to know. And you're right, he pulls back before, right? Before this little section, it's the I am the good shepherd, right? Here's who I am, here's who I've sent to be. And I am the shepherd, right? And he continues to pull that message out in with these folks who have circled him and saying, you're not my sheep. If you were my sheep, you wouldn't be here right now, right? Like, here's the thing, and lays it out for them, and they don't like it. They start picking up rocks, right? And I find that I don't know. I just find that really interesting that they act upon their frustrations. They act upon really denying who Jesus is saying he is, because that's their biggest complaint. You're saying you're God, right? You're saying you're one with God, and we don't like that.
Well, and I think it definitely goes back to, how long will you test our patience, and that they
Yeah.
are like, it's one of those things when the bright and shiny thing comes into town and everybody gets jealous of the bright and shiny thing and like, well, this won't last, or, whatever. Or
Hmm.
or in order to make it not last or to make it not great, what do? We tear it down. And so
Hmm.
that's what's happening in a way here. The other is like the one thing, the question that kind of came up for me, and love to hear your responses to it. What does it mean to hear Jesus's voice?
Sure. You know, this interaction rhymes with again so much of the other gospels and the questions they ask. Even the disciples are like, Jesus, show us a sign, show us something, right? There's always that request for um, visual and physical evidence, right? You've told us who you are, now show us. If you really are, could I always think when the disciples ask that question, it follows the feeding of the 5,000. And Jesus was like, did you not just see? You were there. You collected the fish and the bread, right? What more do you want? What more do you want to see? And I think I hear that same here of how long are you going to test us? Or just do the thing, right? Tell us. Now they're trying to trap Jesus here, right? Like that's obvious. The disciples are just wanting some affirmation and confirmation about their life choices, and what they've decided to do. But the Jewish leadership here is like, we have we want to know. We want you to say it out loud.
Well, but that's where the question is like, really, what does it mean and to listen? Like, what does it mean to
Sure.
hear Jesus' voice? Like, what does that look like? Like, I think when we think about what does that look like for us today, like, I think it's one of those things of being faithful,
Hmm.
being a disciple of Christ really means that in everything we do, Jesus is at the center of what we do. And so before we do something, we ask ourselves, and I hate to use the what would Jesus do thing, but I think that that's like the thing that should be the litmus test of how we can show that we are truly listening to Jesus.
Right.
And you're right, like he does show them, like he has shown them. And I think that at this late in the game in John's gospel, and that by now he has shown them like the way. I mean, we can
Right.
the way, the idea
Well,
of the way, but
and it's been our practice for the last year or so, and throughout our Wesleyan history to ask that question, where do we see God at work? Right. And it's that same thing. We're to help us identify and settle into here's where I'm seeing God, here's where I'm hearing. the voice. Here, here's where God is present. And it takes some intentionality. It takes some work. And it takes us to settle into just the reflective spiritual side of who we've been created to be, to sometimes see that, right? Because there are days where I'm like, nope, hadn't heard it, hadn't seen it. And then if I settle down and just take a moment to breathe, can go, yeah, there it is. That's where it's at.
So, with that in mind, where have you seen God at work lately?
Um, you know, in in a lot of places. But most notably recently, I just completed some certification to become a end of life doula. Something I've been working on for the better part of this year. I wanted to learn something new and grow in some ways, and so I took this course to prepare for just the end of life, and one to help me be a better pastor, but also something I've always been really passionate about, but had some gaps in, and just completed that certification today, actually, and the conversations with my church folk, with strangers, and with people in my cohort, all because of this work and this training, have been really significant. I have was not planning on doing this, did not know about it until about 7 months ago, and started the class in January and or February. But it's just I can definitely see God at work through all of that in me. But also the people that joined me in that class and that work, that are inside and outside of the church doing very sacred work for people in what I would consider some of the most sacred times in their life. So um, it's been fascinating in the ways that that has shown up just in the last couple of weeks in some spaces that I found myself in, and having really hard but uh, very good and faithful conversations with folks about the end of life. Um, and so yeah, seeing God all over that. What about you, man?
I really enjoyed, we started this thing on Sunday nights called the Disciples Table, and it's kind of where I bring the scripture in from Sunday and I talk about it, or I'll have some kind of creative question or something to kind of get our mind stirring about it, or just really there to answer questions about what I said, or, just, that space. And we're coming up to its close. Like, so we have two other meetings. So we meet the 11th and the 18th. And I'm, for as much stress as it puts me under, of like, that's a full day when
Hmm.
it's all said and done. I've really enjoyed it. I've really, like, I've not felt like it's been a burden. I've not felt like it's been something that's been a hindrance to anything I'm doing or anything like that. Like I've really enjoyed doing. I've enjoyed getting to sit around the table with people and have those conversations. And we're working to build this to being an inclusive space for all generations, looking at trying to figure out a way to make it more intergenerational.
Hmm.
And it's been just a lot of fun. It's just been I've enjoyed the people that have come to the table. I've enjoyed the people that the conversations that we've had, and I really, it's just been so much fun. It literally has been just it's kind of a nice end to my Sunday. And then it just like, it's also allowed me that some of that stuff that gets put on the cutting room floor of a sermon, and that
Hmm.
all too well,
Hmm.
that a lot of times that stuff just gets on the cutting room floor and disappears because
Right.
you know, next time that we preach the text coming around, we're probably not in that same headspace or whatever.
Right.
And so like things change, but it's allowed me to have cutting room stuff that I can use,
Yeah.
not feel like it's like, oh, like I feel like I didn't use it. And I just really have enjoyed it. It's been a fun time, and I've just
Yeah.
enjoyed the conversations. And so I've even been asked a conversation about something we talked about in the podcast, because
Nice.
there are people that listen to the podcast that come to it too. And
Hmm.
so it's just been fun to be a full circle thing. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. Those cutting room, you know, floor things usually get cut because they need a conversation, right?
Yeah.
They need a little bit more unpacking and don't fit in the sermon. I love that. I love that.
Well, it also like sometimes I'll send stuff to you that's on the cutting
Hmm.
room floor, like, oh man, like I really want to figure this out, but no,
Right.
I'll give it to you because I know you'll preach it sometime soon, or
Right.
whatever. And so definitely it's been fun to have that space to be able to really do that. And I just I don't know. I really have enjoyed it. So yeah, it's
Nice.
definitely in a place. We want to thank our listeners for listening. We've been doing this for 9 years, and it's been so much fun. I even last week we didn't record last week because it's just post Easter, kind of just all the meetings and things that we put on after Easter came that week, and Zach and I were just swamped and just
Yeah.
did not have the mental capacity to do it. I found myself thinking on Saturday, like, I really wish we would have recorded this week because it helps kind
Yeah.
of get it centers me in a way that just a normal week necessarily can't. And so we definitely appreciate you, our listeners, and a few ways that you can help us is you can like us and share us, and don't be afraid to add comments. We're not necessarily the best at getting back to you on them, but we do read them, and we're grateful for you, our listeners. The other way you can help us is leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening on. That helps people find us. And then the other thing is you can buy things off of our website. Just click the shop, and we have all sorts of really cool things for you to buy and purchase. And so those are good ways to support us. And so for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
Guys, and like this video, and push that thumbs up.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all social media outlets. You can check out old episodes and more information at beardedtheologians.com. Thanks for checking us out.